it's Emmanuel Quickly and R.J. Barrett, who also had really good games.
Yeah, they did, and big shot by Quentin Grimes, probably the biggest shot to get them involved and get the lead. But it was just they hit all their free throws. Porzingis hit that three to get the lead back with about 4 minutes to go.
Did not hit all their free throws.
Yeah, so that was an ugly part of it. But, I mean, they did, the Celtics were winning a majority of the game. The Knicks made the comeback. I thought that at that point, everybody would wake up and they would run to a W, but it didn't happen. So it was an annoying one. Of course, we're not going to overreact. It's the first game of the NBA regular season against a very, very good team. But if there's one takeaway I have last night is that Porzingis stays healthy, he's going to be a pain in the ass for a lot of teams in the East on the Celtics.
He's finally grown up.
Yeah.
He's gotten a little bit more physical. He looks like he's put on some weight. But at the end of the day, for the Knicks, it's the same Knicks team. This is the same Knicks team. And it's a Knicks team that we're going to like eventually, but they're going to have nights like they had this past night. Now, they go on the road for 3 games and maybe get away just like the Rangers got away. Maybe they'll bond a little bit closer as a team and they'll get better on the road against some teams that they are better than. And hopefully they come away with a 3-game win streak. What I took out of last night's game is that they could look the Boston Celtics eye to eye and they can play with them. They can play with them.
Sure.
They had the lead late in the game.
Yeah.
And they can play with them. That's what I take away from last night's game. And let's face it, Boston is one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the entire league. And, they took them, and they had a lead late in the game. And they can't hit the freaking free throws.
Right.
And you got your 2 best players, the 2 players that you're counting on who get the most minutes, really had off games last night. They were either nervous or they just weren't right yet. And those things happen. So it's, last year we were bing-bonging and all hell broke loose.
Yeah. Well, that was that last year?
I feel like that was last year, yeah.
Bing Bong was the first game of...
They beat the Celtics last year, don't you remember?
Come on.
Yeah.
Now, I feel like that was 2 years ago.
No, I feel like that was last year.
Wow, you might be right. I don't feel as confident about my Bing Bong take. It could have been, but...
I feel like it was last year. They beat the Celtics opening night in New York.
No, it was 21.
It was 21?
It was the Bing Bong was 2021.
So what was last year?
Last year, I don't know. I don't remember. I just know. Yeah. So it was craziness. They were bing bonging like crazy after winning opening night, and then they ended up going to the playoffs right that year with the Hawks, and then got killed.
That was the bing bong year. Was the Hawks year? I thought it was last year.
No, Al said 21. But
what was last year? What the hell was last year then?
Bottom line is we are not bing bonging this morning.
No, we're not.
But Julius Randle and Jalen Brunson did not have great nights. They were both bad for who they are, and the Knicks still were there with their role players and the rest of the roster and had a chance to win the game. But it is funny you mentioned how Kristaps Porzingis grew up, and it that's really the thing, just visually watching him, his demeanor, just the way he looks, the way he put on weight. He's got the beard going on. He's like a man now. He was just that little kid string bean who was misguided and immature and a pain in the ass here and probably
he was a dip. You know what he was.
Yeah, right. But I mean, now he's gone through a bunch of different situations. He obviously was down there in Dallas with Luka, and Luka Doncic didn't like him, and he got shipped out of there. It just feels like this is the right thing for him at this point in his career. And I'm sure that as annoying as it was for us to watch, he was loving every minute of that last night on Knicks opening night in front of that crowd doing what he was doing. Now, this is a guy who's had injury history. He's someone that has missed a ton of games, but that you want to talk about an X factor in the East, this guy could be it, man.
Yeah, well,
he really could be.
They have a great team. And, he was starting last night. He came out and, Mitchell Robinson fell asleep on a backdoor dunk. And you're like, oh, God, here we go. But I will say, to the Knicks' credit, they hung with him. Even though 2 of their best players played awful.
Yeah.
They just hung with him. And they missed so many goddamn free throws. I mean, it was ridiculous. It's like, don't you guys practice free throws?
Yeah.
Every team should be practicing free throws. Yeah, and they keep missing free throws. I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
They're free. Go make them.
I know. I mean, if you really wanted to overreact to this game, I could give you a take to overreact to this game.
Let's go. I want an overreaction.
This is what we saw last night is a microcosm of what the Knicks will be for the rest of the year. Good enough to hang with the best teams, give you a little bit of juice, take the lead, be a pain in the ass for the good teams, but just not good enough to beat them in the key moments because there's just more stars on these other teams.
Yeah, that's exactly
that
right.
There is the
exactly
season
right,
in a nutshell, what it could be.
But hopefully it's 2 rounds in the playoffs.
Yes.
That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah, you get back to the second round of the postseason with a chance to go to the conference finals again. I'm thrilled.
I'm telling you, the Celtics after the game yesterday are probably saying, this is a pain in the ass team to play against.
Yeah.
And that's what I want. It's a likable team, but, it's the same team. It is the same team. Nothing's changing. And I'm sure that they looked at the roster and said, all right, we're going as far as we're going.
Yeah.
But there's really not much they can do. I'm not saying that they haven't tried to do it. Of course they've tried to do it. But this is the same team that, we have watched the last 2 to 3 years. Now you had Brunson come here last year and Josh Hart come here last year. And it's going to be the same thing all over again. Maybe they get the 47, 48 wins, 45 wins, something like that. And they'll hopefully win a series, and then maybe they take somebody 7 that they probably shouldn't be taking to 7. That's probably what it's going to be.
Yeah, but it is good, and like you have like these little things that you take as a Knicks fan, and the fact that there was that much energy, and they're battling the Celtics, and it's opening night, all that stuff is good, and it's some of these times. Sometimes, as we've talked about many times this week, that expectation is the thief of joy. Our expectation for the Knicks is to basically get to back, where they were last year. Yeah. And if they fall short of that, that'll be disappointing. But if they get to the same place as they did last year and lose to a better team again, I'm not all that upset because I feel like they're maxing out. Because we all know that they're missing a piece. We all know that there's one more guy that they need to be able to hang with Boston, Milwaukee, Miami. So I understand that. And maybe that happens at the trade deadline. Maybe it does.
That's what you got to hope for. And I think that, for guys on this squad, 2 guys that got off to 2 good starts, even though I wish, R.J. Barrett would hit all his free throws. He should be better at that aspect of the game. But I still look at Quickly and Barrett, looked like they have grown up. They're grown up right before our eyes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that part of it looks like it's good. But the question is it good enough? And is it good enough to beat some of the best teams in the league? That's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. They're going to have a good season. They got good players, likable players, but they just don't have the player.
Yeah, so I was out bopping around with the guys yesterday all afternoon. I guess I missed this, that BT and Sal got in a fight with Carl Banks yesterday.
Yeah, it was bad.
I didn't see this.
Really bad.
I mean, we were. It was really bad, huh? Like bad in what way?
Well, I just feel like if Carl wanted to, he could have went the athlete to the NARP thing. He didn't want to do that. He wanted to try to be above board. And those guys, were attacking him about Kayvon Thibodeau. And
when you say attacking him,
well, it's like how Mike used to yell at Minko or yell at somebody that would give an update or somebody that would give a
right,
talk about a
like Sweeney
team.
would come on.
Yeah, and he'd scream at him.
He'd scream at Sweeney about something that Brian Cashman did.
Like Sweeney had anything to do with any of it.
Exactly.
He's just actually reporting and giving an opinion on something, and then he starts screaming at him.
Right.
Because, he knew he could intimidate him.
Yeah, exactly.
That kind of thing.
So you think that BT and Sal were trying to intimidate Carl Banks by yelling at them?
I think it was more Sal. That was doing more of the screaming, yeah.
Sal was screaming. I didn't hear any. I feel bad and unprepared. It was a long day yesterday. I missed this.
Hi, this is Carl Banks.
Shut up!
we got plenty of tape. Don't worry about it.
All right. I'm hopefully Jerry has some of this. Did you guys talk about this in the warm-up show this morning?
Yes.
Oh wow! Does Jerry have audio?
I'm not sure. I have a clip here if you'd like to. This is a minute 30 though. This is on social media. I'll let you see how it goes.
Okay.
I see a player who's getting a little bit better, no doubt. He's got a good sack total. I got you. But I see a player who kind of just jumps on a quarterback at the end and gets a sack. I
get it. And this is not a knock on you because you're a Jet fan and you can see it the lens you see it in.
I can have an objective evaluation. Now, I could be wrong, but it's not because I'm a Jets fan. I can promise you that.
Two things can be true.
Okay.
But I will say this much to you guys. This unhealthy obsession with finding what's wrong with Kayvon Thibodeau is bordering weird. I mean, it really is. When you talk about you don't like a guy's body,
tell me
what are we talking about?
BT said it right. Educate us then. What does Kayvon Thibodeau do? I want to hear it. No, what does he do well? I'm asking you, the great former linebacker, and tell me what Kayvon. I saw him drop an easy pick six. That's what I saw.
That's why he plays linebacker, not receiver.
Okay, so what does he do well?
But if you're telling me he doesn't have speed off the edge, how do you get 8 pressures in the game? 1.5 sacks, tackles for loss. He's explosive. Yes, he's quick. Listen. I can't tell you how to fan, but I can tell you need to pour into your fandom more positivity. You're looking at one of your team's best players and finding what's wrong with them more so than highlighting what's right.
All right.
But I guess what people were upset about is that Sal said, that's it, and then cut it off.
Cut him off. Yeah,
cut off the interview.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was the problem, which is not in that social media
we got to
post.
get that. Hopefully Jerry has that. Sal hung up on Carl Banks like he would hang up on Mitchell and Fort Lee.
Well, I think what happened is
success.
Carl basically was, saying you guys are fans, you this, you're that. He was like trying to explain Kayvon Thibodeau's positives as an athlete. The other thing too, Carl made a mistake. He said, to BT, you're a Jet fan. So I don't know why Giant fans do that. I don't know why Giant people do that. They'll say to me, "Oh, you're a Jet fan." I'm like, "No, I'm not a Jet fan." Well, you hate the Giants. I said, "Well, listen, I want to love the Giants. So if you give me a 12-win season, guess what? I'll be sitting here with pom-poms on."
Absolutely.
But if you haven't given me one of those in 10 years, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah, I mean, I'm with BT and Sal on this. I mean, we've sat here and wondered what Kayvon Thibodeau does well, and he's not these guys that, the biggest point is we've seen so many of these edge rushers get drafted where Kayvon Thibodeau was drafted and higher. Myles Garrett, Nick Bosa, Micah Parsons was drafted after where Kayvon Thibodeau was in a previous draft. He was 11 or something, and Kayvon Thibodeau was 5. And he's not even close to the impact of those players, and that's what he was brought here to do. So the bordering on weird obsession was an interesting way to put it, but hey, it was entertaining. And generally, those Carl Banks interviews are not, so that was a good one.
Yeah, got pretty feisty.
It did get feisty.
Is what you like, but I would just say that the reason that Wink Martindale's doing all this blitzing and everything, it's because they don't really have a guy to go back there and go get somebody.
Mm-hmm.
When you play against the Cleveland Browns, you're looking for where Myles Garrett is. And quite frankly, they just came off of a game in which the quarterback has been sacked 40 times this year with the Washington Commanders.
Yeah.
And they have no answer for blitzes in that offense, I guess. I guess that's the same offense that Patrick Mahomes runs out there in Kansas City and just makes plays. And Sam Howell is not Patrick Mahomes.
Sure.
So instead of making plays, he's taking sacks. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you got to take into account, who they were playing this past week, and good for them. They outplayed them. Wink Martindale had a blitz package that was exceptional, and of course, you want Kayvon. I can't remember the last time I saw Myles Garrett 15 yards down the field.
Well, that's a big point that I brought up a couple weeks ago. Is that if Kayvon Thibodeau was that dangerous off the edge, Wink Martindale wouldn't be sending him back into coverage 15 times a game.
Yeah, and you wouldn't have to go through all the different gyrations that they go through with their defense to create pressure and to create confusion for young quarterbacks, which I think is what they're going to try to do this week against Zach Wilson. And at least that's what I would do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that kid has not shown me that he can handle pressure.
Al was able to dig up that interaction at the end where Sal apparently swatted away Carl Banks at the end of this interview. So let's hear that.
It's not your job to find out what the kid does right.
Yeah.
Then it should not be your job to call him a bust.
How about this?
Because if you're going to call him a bust, you got to be able to tell me.
I've heard enough.
You're going to hear some more. It's your show.
I can't take it anymore. Pull him down. Seriously, we got to have a voice here. And I appreciate the time, Carl. Thank you. Here's the thing. Carl's supposed to.
Oh, boy. Do you was that disrespect in your eyes?
You know, I think Carl was trying to lecture those guys, and those guys have their show. He feeds his family by having that show, Sal and BT.
Yeah.
They could run the show. They should have opinions. That's what they get paid to do. I've been in this business long enough to know that they have to cut through somehow.
Yeah.
Now, I would like to think that you're going to be kind to each other on the air, even though you have a difference of opinion. It sounded like Carl was trying to lecture them, and those guys were getting ticked off at it. That's basically what it came down to.
Yeah. I don't see it. I think both sides had a little bit of disrespect going because of the disagreement, but I don't blame BT and Sal for going after Carl there. I didn't feel like it was over the top.
But I think Carl came in and said, look at his numbers versus the Washington Commanders. Don't sit here and tell me that those numbers aren't real. They are. And that's basically, I think, what the crux of the argument was. We're all arguing over Kayvon Thibodeau and whether or not he and his brand are going to work here.
Thanks so much for watching the video.
Please like and subscribe.
And don't forget to hit the bell so you're notified when we're dropping new content.